It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, March 14th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful and amazing Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, the practical word study, and also Provi in the media. So, how are you guys doing today? Oh gosh. You know what? There's one thing that I really want more than anything else when it comes to this podcast. There are so many things going on, rumors and this and that, accusations, and I really don't want this to be the place where it's stoking a fire, gaslighting, fear-mongering, anything else like that. I really hope that this can become a place where everyone can relax, if I will talk about that the video that just came out from from the Whitestone Church, the leaders meeting. That was like 33 minutes. It's on Palm TV and such. And a lot of controversy from that too. It came out in the newspaper in Korea also. But I'd rather come in and just give you my experience of what happened to me last night and how I can help you guys just to calm your nerves. Cause it's pretty crazy, the stuff that's coming out right now. But it's Tuesday. It's just the beginning of the week, guys. We have 9.5 months left of 2023, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, thank you. Right? I'm very grateful and thankful for all of you out there just supporting this podcast. And, a lot of you guys do call me and DM me and comment and thank me a lot for these different things. But I would have to say that I am more grateful to you guys for your participation, for your support. A lot of people do call me and ask me for advice and stuff like this too. And I'm really... I really want to be a calming voice. I don't want to be the person that takes a side and says, "Oh, how dare you?" No, I don't want any of that. I just want more of, let's just try to figure this out together. And let's just be calm, alert, and not thinking too crazy about other different things. And let's not get too emotional. Because I'm going to tell you what my experience I had today too. But keep liking and commenting. Be a great thread to start. Like one person starts, then everyone else just starts to comment on that thread. Maybe we should have a Thanksgiving thread. You know what I mean? Like a Thanksgiving thread. What are we thankful to God for? And, maybe I'll be the first one to start it, or someone else, whoever starts it first, we just keep commenting on it. Just what are we thankful for? And I hope it could be something that really soothes our hearts and minds. This is a community we want to build. We're not going to all agree with each other. We're not going to all believe the same way. But, as a community, I just really hope that we can come together and be able to do things that we're able to do together, like give thanks to God, right? So maybe we can start that thread. That'd be great to start that, all right? Q&A Thursday is just around the corner too, so please get your questions ready for this week. I'll take all questions too, because, there's a lot of different things that we need to discuss and talk about also. And, just send it in the comments, or you can DM me or something else along that line also. Yeah, and, I just had an amazing time yesterday. So, just me and like 2-3 others, we just decided, let's just go to the church. There's like, in the large church here, there's a cafe in there. And I was just like, you know what, guys? We all decided, let's just praise. And it was impromptu. And someone just brought their guitar. I had this like box drum kind of thing. And we just praised. Like for 2.5 hours straight, just praising. And it was very, very organic. And just people started joining. People were just sitting there, started praising. And it was such a beautiful thing to see in this time of chaos. And I do think one of the things that does kind of stop time, and it stops all, like, you go into a different world when you start to praise and worship. And I think this is one of the most powerful things we could do right now at this time. So I really, really, my suggestion to you guys is, sometimes you just gotta praise. Just praise God and just worship and close your eyes. Let everything just go away and be ready to just connect with God. And that was something we did just organically. And at one point we had like 5, 6, 7 other people join. Just people who were there just came in, and it's praise. And because it's praise, we just, man, it was such an amazing time to feel God's presence at its highest, right? So yeah, I'm very, very grateful and thankful that I was able to participate in that time of praise and worship. It's been a long time since was able to do that type of So it's just, yeah, it's interesting either way. So yeah, if you guys can get some people together, just praise. I think it's a very, very amazing thing. Now, let's get into that, quick message from Pastor Joan. She gave to the leaders at Whitestone Church. Then it was posted onto Palm and then YouTube. And, the reason why I watched it is because there's a rumor coming out that, Pastor Joan is like, oh my gosh, she admitted it, that what Sunseam did. And I was like, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was like, what? She did it on air? Like, oh my gosh. Well, this is big news. And my heart was palpitating. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And, I watched the video, and I had to watch the video when I was calmed down. Because one thing I do know about myself, if we want to be self-aware too, one thing I do know about myself is if I'm not calm, if I'm not in the right state of mind, and I watch something with something in mind, like this is what everyone is saying, then sometimes I tend to move towards confirmation bias, meaning I'm only looking for one thing. And if I'm only looking for one thing, what happens is whenever something like remotely comes up that talks about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. Oh, she said it. And I was like, you know what, I got to calm down. So for me, one of the things that I like to do, especially at this time when rumors are swirling like crazy, and I think this is a good habit for everyone to do, is I have to check. I really do. Like, I gotta check this cough too. It's been a long time since I've had this cough, but for me, I said, you know what, I heard like 4 or 5 different types of rumors that came out, and I was like, you know what, I got to go straight to the source. Or, obviously I can't talk to Pastor Joan directly. I was like, I got to talk to some people who are actually there at the meeting, what happened after, whatever it was, right? And I started calling around Korea. I was like, hey, did you hear this? She's like, and they're like, I'm going to be honest with you. I heard the first people I talked to, first 2 people like, yeah, she said it. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then they started telling me stories, this, and this. And I was like, oh, interesting. So then I said, well, then, let me talk to someone. And these were people that were not at the meeting. So I went and talked to someone at the meeting. And it was kind of like the opposite. And I was like, wait a second. We have like a bunch of different rumors or narratives going around. Which one's right? And I came to this conclusion. Because, I'm hearing both sides. And I heard both sides. So my conclusion was, man, it is nuts in Korea right now. Like, it's something that none of us are going to really be able to understand. It is crazy out there. And I was just like, huh. So then you talk a little bit more, and then, there's always been people against AJ and stuff like that too. And there's always the pro people for her. And then, now there's people that believe in what's going on and such. And there's like 3 different, like parties inside of Providence, which is crazy, right? And when I heard about that, I could have, it was really weird because I could have become even more frantic, like, what the heck is going on? But my realization was, there's so much stuff going out there. You don't know what's right. So people are hearing this and people hearing that. And in the end, my realization was, man, it's so bad there. There's like factions or things happening here and there. And I thought to myself is, you know what? I'm not even there. And I can't trust hearsay. Like someone heard from someone that this, or someone heard from this. And like all the people I did call too, the thing that made it more interesting is like I only call people that I really, really trust. And I trusted and I believed everything they said. And because they were very honest with me, I heard from this person that they heard from here, right? So like they're very honest with me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so the biggest thing for me now is you know what? There are sides going on and things going on in Korea that we just don't know. We don't understand fully. We're not there. We haven't heard anything like that. And we're just basing everything on hearsay, right? And when it came down to someone said, oh, well, she admitted it on the video. And I watched the video. And yeah, there's just for me, and maybe part of it is because my Korean is not perfect. And this is why I had to double and triple check with other people in Korea when they heard it, what they thought of it. And no one said that, the ones that actually heard the 33-minute video. So I was kind of like going back to the people like, hey, I never got that feeling. And, I talked to other people, they never got that feeling either. And then they were like, oh, no, it's in another audio. And then I was like, oh, okay, so you just told me to watch the 33-minute one, but now you want me to listen to a 2-hour audio after, right? And I was just like, you know what? I am not the one making this, like saying that this is what she said. So from now on, if someone says that, I'm going to be like, okay, so you said she said it. So give me the audio or the video and give me the timestamps that I can listen to so I can understand it, so that I can see it or hear it for myself. And I think that's kind of the safest way to go, especially when we're not there, And there's going to be a ton of stuff going to come out, but man, even for me, I'm just like, man, there's a lot of talk going on there, back and forth, opposite things being said, all from people that I trust. I'm just like, this is strange. And I was like, you know what? I can't really, I can't really trust what everyone is saying. I just can't, right? Everyone is hearing something, and I'd rather hear it from the source, or I'd rather hear it I'd rather hear that instead. So that's why for me is if anyone ever does bring it up to me, I will ask them. It's like, okay, you heard it. All right, send me the audio, send me the timestamp so I know exactly where to look and such. And I'll listen to the whole thing in context to understand that one small part there. And I think this is the safest route because, when I first heard the rumor, I was like, oh my gosh. And then my heart's palpitating, but I'm just like, let me check this. And I think that is the safest and the best way to do it, especially because we're not there. And, a lot of us, a lot of you out there may not understand Korean also, right? So the one thing I didn't want to do is I don't want to watch anything when I'm in a compromised state where I'm like nervous or I'm like, oh my gosh, kind of thing. Or people are trying to make me look for something because I'll just tell you what I listened to the 33-minute video. I thought it was very sincere, very a pleading message, very powerful, right? And it was a call to restart properly. Like if we want to this next chapter in this history to start well, we have to get rid of everything that is unclean and wrong. And she started with her repenting and, excuse me, she talked about the things that she did wrong, right? She talked about the things that, to be more transparent about certain things. She talked about her relationship with Sunsim. She was a little bit, she got so upset at Sunsim and stuff like that too, where she shouldn't have done that. And, she said, this is about God's history. This is not about a human being. It's about God's history. It's time to repent for all the things that we've done wrong so that we can move forward in a better way. And, I liked it because she says, at the time, I'm the one helping to lead this history while this is happening. And it's come to this point. So I really, really, she really repented first. And I thought that was perfect for someone who's in the leadership position. Very, very sincere, in tears. Yeah, and she's really thinking about the future of what to do for the sake of the next generation. And I like what she said. She said, not everything is false and not everything is true, right? So you need to know clearly. And I think that is something that we should understand and know better. And she's very, very adamant about this is not a history of physical love, it's spiritual love, right? And I think that's one of the things I want to work on with Provi in the Media today is one of the things in the Netflix about, it's a very, very old thing that's already been taken care of in the past, but it's about KDH's father that was assaulted and stuff. And I want to get into that story too, just so that everyone knows clearly because, it's something that actually happened, right? So we can know clearly of, this is what actually happened at this time, right? So yeah, like when we look at it, when you look at the Netflix, not all of it is false. there are some things that are true, right? And from those true things, people can build a narrative around it or something along that line. And I do want to go over this one thing so that we have a clear picture of what actually happened during that time, because I think it's absolutely monstrous that happened, right? So, even when she's talking about the difference in thought between headquarters and Pastor Joe, and like they didn't want her to do this talk, and there's going to be differences, especially at this sensitive time when a trial is going on, right? And I think the ultimate thing that she did say that was very good is, we're all waiting for something to speak directly about this, right? So everyone, we should all be open and available, and just know that rumors are out there, and know properly and check everything, right? So that's why for me is I'm not going to believe in someone just because they said they heard it, right? I'm going to check it. Where was it? Give me the timestamp. What's the audio, right? So I think the big thing we need to really focus on is the words, right? Know the word, because the word has been tried and true, because that's what we based everything on since the past, and it's very, very powerful. And we really need to, as Pastor Jones said, we need to show people how great the word is, right? And just, you can hear the sincerity in her voice, how much she's pleading just for everyone to come back together, right? Repenting of all the things she's done wrong and what she should have done better, right? And this is how we're going to start powerfully to move forward from here, right? So, it's crazy how many rumors are going around, what people are saying, and I think this is too big to rely just on someone who said, yeah, I heard it, and that's true. And I think it's something that we really have to investigate ourselves. This is our life. It's my faith, right? And I'm not going to throw my faith away on a whim of what someone else said that they heard. I have to be I am someone who has this faith, who's lived this life, this daily life of faith. I've seen the miracles. I've seen the signs. I've seen my life change. And this is something that we really need to take seriously, right? So that is something I hope that all of us can really think about. Calm your hearts. Don't watch or read or put yourself in a compromised state, because this is when you start to lose it even further, right? And I don't think that's a good idea for us in this chaotic and sensitive time to be in this type of situation, right? Today in Provi in the media, I will be talking about this mass panic that's happening right now all around the world when they're all seeing this Netflix documentary. It's very, very interesting. It comes from a sociologist, a scholarly point of view. I was going to talk about what happened in the Netflix with KDH's father, but I actually found the wrong article, so I actually prepared the wrong one. So I will get to that for next week. But today I'll talk about what sociologist Massimo Gervigne, sociologist in religion, what he's going to talk about when it comes to what the media does to bring like mass hysteria, and it makes people make the wrong judgments. Just to let you guys know in the poll, I thought it was quite interesting that most of the people that are on my podcast that are listening are from 2008 to 2017, like 61%. And then 2018 to 2023, within the last 5 years, is 27%. And then, oldies like me, right? And some others, it's up to 2007. It's been about 12%, 6% from the old, like first half, and then another 6% from the year 2000, 2007. But yeah, I am very welcoming and open to everyone out there, and I hope that you guys are enjoying this. And I hope that this can be a place where you can be calm and cool and not worry about, like someone trying to convince you this way or that way, right? I just want to, like today's Provi in the media, we'll speak the facts of what actually happened during that time and who were the major players involved with it too. And obviously, Sunseem's not one of the ones involved. All right. So let's listen to some really calming music today from some member artists from around the world. And I gotta get rid of this cough. We're gonna start off with something that's very, very important. It's the Somebody Boys from America with "Alone I Pray." I really love this song, and we're gonna do kind of a mellow groove today. And then we'll have Renee live from Taiwan with "This Is Me" from the Greatest Showman soundtrack, something more inspiring. And then we'll end things off with Star over there in New Zealand with "Swaying."
I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. No, I'm not slipping through, no, I'm not falling down. The only thing that's falling's my knees on the floor. I'm praying, Lord, will you give me strength? Lord, will you give me power? I can't do this myself, so bless me in the morning hours. All the demons test me, but they will never shake me. If I pray, they hate me. If I pray, you love me. Connected with you is the only thing that matters. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. While I'm praying on my knees, I trust you with all my heart. For you always come through. For myself, for my family, for myself alone I pray. Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. I pray to never just settle for good when great is available. Who's the mastermind behind this mind? I give all the credit to God, that's why I'm back. They mad that I made it, I know that the Satans, they hate it. I keep working hard just to make progress. Now I'm on 10, trust the process, ayy. Look at my efforts lately, I'm setting conditions daily. I'm praying on my knees, so bless me. Please bless me, please bless me. Tribulations always come and go, I will never stop, just always know your focus determines reality, stay solid, that's why I'm praying on my knees. I trust you with all my heart, for you to always come through. For myself, for my family, on myself alone I pray. Please don't let me down, Lord. I know I can trust you with all my heart. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. Even if I pray all night, all I want is for your will be done. So I'm on my knees, praying for you to always come through. SB.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken part. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When sharp words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna stand flat, gonna draw them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. But far away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We're blasting through the barricades and bringing change for the sun. Yeah, that's what we become. Won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Gonna stand flat, gonna draw them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm gonna set a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be, this is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching on, marching on. No apologies, this is me. I'm gonna stand firm. I'm gonna drown them out. Oh, this is me. Looking over her shoulder, too late to turn back. Wishing it were over, left more than a scratch. Couldn't bear to be seen like this. She slipped out the back, got lost in a blizzard, and fell through a crack. For what was she thinking? It's not a game. You can't take back the hand you've already played. She's walking a fine line, told and blind. Will she come running back? Well, maybe not this time. Back and forth she swaying, can't make up her mind. Now it looks she ain't staying. This'll be the last time. Missing out on the biggest chance of 1,000 years. She could wait and won't come again to her closed eyes and ears. Wandering to and fro, wondering where to go. How will she ever know how to control her life? Swaying from side to side, wavering left and right. She's cut herself free and loose, out of sight, out of mind, out of view. Wandering to and fro, wondering where to go. How will she ever know how to control her life? Swaying from side to side, wavering left and right. She's cut herself free and loose, out of sight, out of mind, out of views. She's cut herself free and loose, out of sight, out of mind, out of views.
And that was Star from New Zealand with the song Swaying. Before that, Renee Lai from Taiwan with This Is Me from the Greatest Showman soundtrack. And of course, that first song, the feature artist of the day, that's the Sumney Boys from America with Alone I Pray. All right, so now that we've listened to the member artists from around the world, let's get into some news, right? And I do think sometimes when we're too caught up in what's happening around us, like just directly, it's hard for us to really pray for the world and repent for it when we're only looking at what's happening around us, like, let's say just in Providence, right? So let's take a look at what's happening around the world so we can pray for the world properly. We'll start off with Myanmar. We haven't talked about them in a long time, but there's still this big coup that happened, and it looks like the Myanmar army has killed more than 30 people in a monastery attack. So more than 30 people have been killed in a monastery in Myanmar's southern Shan state, and an insurgent group said. Troops shelled the Nan 9 village on Saturday, and the Karenni Nationalities Defense Force, the KNDF, said. Myanmar has seen a growing number of deadly battles between its military and armed resistance groups since the junta seized power in a coup 2 years ago. It's already been 2 years, guys. Some of the fiercest fighting has been in Shan State, which borders the capital of Nay Pyi Taw and Thailand. And on Saturday, the junta's air force and artillery entered the village after the shelling around 4 p.m. local time. And they executed villagers they found hiding inside a monastery, the KNDF said. At least 30 civilians and 3 Buddhist monks were killed, the group said. A video from KNDF, one of several ethnic armies which have joined the fight against the military government, showed at least 20 bodies, some in the orange robes worn by Buddhist monks, and they were just piled up against the monastery. So really sad seeing what's going on there. It's been 2 years since this coup has gone on from the military, so I really hope that this is a prayer that we can give once again to Myanmar. On the Ukraine war, it seems heavy losses reported as battle for Bakhmut rages. Ukraine and Russia have reported inflicting heavy losses as the battle for Bakhmut rages on. Moscow has been trying to take the eastern Ukrainian city for months in a grinding war of attrition. Ukrainian President Zelensky said Russian forces had suffered more than 1,100 deaths in the past few days, with many more seriously injured. Russia said it had killed more than 220 Ukrainian service members over the past 24 hours. The BBC is unable to verify the numbers given by either side, but analysts say Bakhmut has little strategic value, but has become a focal point for Russian commanders who have struggled to deliver any positive news to the Kremlin. Now, the capture of the city would bring Russia slightly closer to its goal of controlling the whole of the Donetsk region, one of 4 regions in eastern and southern Ukraine annexed by Russia last September, following referendums widely condemned outside Russia as a sham. Last but not least, we'll go to North Korea. And it looks like North Korea conducts new weapons tests as U.S.-South Korea start drills. North Korea has fired 2 strategic cruise missiles from a submarine in a show of force just hours before the United States and South Korea began their largest joint military exercises in 5 years. The tests, reported by state media on Monday, came days after leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a series of weapon launches and ordered his soldiers to intensify efforts to repel its rivals' frantic war preparation moves. The official Korean Central News Agency, the KCNA, said the missile launches showed Pyongyang's resolve to respond with overwhelming powerful forces to so-called military maneuvers by the U.S. imperialists and the South Korean puppet forces. The KCNA also implied that North Korea aims to arm the cruise missiles tested with nuclear warheads. Pyongyang views military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea as rehearsals for invasion and argues its nuclear weapons and missile programs are necessary for self-defense. So what's actually happening is the militaries of the U.S. and South Korea, they began military exercises called Freedom Shield. And that was early on Monday. And the first time, it's the first time such large-scale drills have been held since 2018 when they were suspended in support of renewed diplomatic efforts to secure North Korea's denuclearization. So that is the top 3 news. I really hope it's something that all of you guys can really gain something from so we can pray much better when it comes to praying and repenting for the world. Okay? Let's move on to some sporting news. What's happening around the world when it comes to sports? We'll start off with some soccer news. Arsenal restores a 5-point gap at Premier League Summit with easy win over Fulham 3-0. And Man U's momentum halted at Southampton after Casemiro's red card. So they were held to a 0-0 draw, but they were down 1 man. They're down to 10 men. So that was actually a very, very good fight that they did. In MMA news over the weekend, it was Merab Dvalishvili's historic performance puts top stars on notice, plus who's next for winners in Vegas, right? So it was a lopsided win against former champion Peter Yan, which is a very, very big fight. And that was on Saturday in Las Vegas. And that is, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Dvalishvili, his 9th win in a row. That's 8 straight at bantamweight, which is the longest streak in bantamweight history held by Aljamain Sterling. And he set a UFC record with 49 takedown attempts, which was held previously by Cain Velasquez with 33. So that's quite interesting there, though. All right. So there it is, guys. Top 3 news in sports and around the world, and hope it helps you guys out with your prayer time, okay? So there it is, guys. That is the news, and you know what that means. It is the golden time. And yes, this is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope all of you guys are looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So, what are we going to praise and worship today? We're going to start off with Life of Heaven, and then Let's Rise Up, and we'll end things off with Let's Overcome the World. Yes, we're going to have 3 songs with the letter L, Life, Let's, and Let's. I hope you guys enjoy this. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Life of heaven.
Everything God created in this whole world, earth, sea, and sky, it's heaven on earth. Wherever we are, if we serve the Lord, if we live as one, it becomes heaven on the earth. Everything God created in this whole world, earth, sea, and sky, it's heaven on earth. Wherever we are, if we serve the Lord, if we live as one, it becomes heaven on the earth. Up in the world of love, where God the Holy Spirit and Son live, that world of heaven above, that is where heavenly spirits live in love forever. Even today, here with our Lord, while serving the Spirit, while serving God Almighty, we rapture higher on the earth, living life just like heaven. This is heaven, heaven of Wherever we are, if we serve the Lord, if we live as one, it becomes heaven on the earth. Even today, here with our Lord, while serving the Spirit, while serving God Almighty, we rapture higher on the earth, living life just like heaven. This is heaven, heaven Let's overcome the world, overcome our hardships and send our fears away. Come from our hearts and sent with the wind. the Spirit, let your cares fly. You and I both, we must go on. Our hearts have not changed. Like the waves rising and falling, we may waver and be shaken, nevertheless we will remain on the same path until the end. Our destination set, both you and I, your hand in mine, our hearts as one. We go on as one. We must support, help each other, care for each other as we love and adore only God, the Holy Spirit. We will look up to them, longing for heaven. That's our joy, and this love never rests, now and always, just as time flows, as the waves crash endlessly. Let's overcome the world, overcome our hardships and send our fears away. Come from our hearts and sent with the wind. On the wind of the Spirit, let your cares fly. You and I both, we must go on. Our hearts have not changed.
And that was Let's Overcome the World. Before that, Let's Rise Up, and of course, Life of Heaven. And I'm not sure why I picked 3 songs with the word, with like that all start with the letter L, because I chose them from different folders. So I guess that's just the will today for me to play those songs. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. And I hope it kind of gets your hearts ready for this time of the practical word study. And I think something that a lot of people look forward to is how can we put the words of God into action. And I actually do think this is something that should be one of our big focuses. I talked about this week is, we sometimes we'll focus way too much on the tribulation, so we can't move. Like, we can't get anywhere. We can't move anywhere because we're just looking at what all the bad things that are happening. And yes, every day new things pop up. We're like, what the heck is going on kind of thing. But, we have to kind of look at them and move forward. And one of the things that I remember what Sunstein said in the past is, it's almost like you're on a train, right? And you're trying to get to your destination. And then as you make a stop, there's these dogs barking at you outside the train. Now, is it worth it for you to get off the train and start like punishing the dogs for barking at you? Or do you just kind of let them bark and then just let the train move on towards the destination you want to get to, right? And I hope that we can kind of not focus on the chaos around us, but let's focus on what we should be doing for God, right? As God, if this is God's history, it's all about what does God want from us right now, okay? So for the practical word study, there's a couple of things I do think that all of us can go over to really strengthen us to understand, especially that first part of the message of how does God work? Like, how does God reveal himself? And of course, we saw those 3 verses, John chapter 1, verse 1, John chapter 1, verse 14, and then John chapter 5, verse 24. As Sunstein said, the Gospel of John is a very, very spiritual book, right? And it's like God reveals through the Word, but the Word was manifested through flesh, and the Word comes through Jesus, right? The man of mission. And then if we believe in God who sent this person and believe in those words, then we have crossed over from death to life, right? So I do think one of the biggest problems that people had and people are having, obviously going to have today is what is the expectation that they have for the Lord to come back again, right? And, one of the big things we have been talking about is a lot of people are expecting Jesus himself to come back, like an actual physical figure, right? So I think going over the prophecies of Jesus, right? Because we already know in Acts chapter 1, was it verse 9 and 10? Or Acts chapter 1? It's Acts chapter 1. I think it's 9 and 10. Let me just make a very, very quick look at this, right? I think it's Acts chapter 1, verse 9 and 10. Yeah. 9 to 11. That's probably the best ones to look at. And that's when Jesus actually ascends into heaven, and he says, the angels say he'll come back in the exact same way he left, right? So I think 3 prophecies that are very, very powerful, and the ones that we teach as really major ones. The first is clouds. And the second is fire. And those are 2 things that I think that will relieve people of their expectations of what to expect, how the Lord will come back again, right? So, we have the fire one is like one of the most powerful and easiest ones because it's very, very clear in Jeremiah that the fire is the word. I think it's Jeremiah 5:14, Jeremiah 23, verse 29, I think, right? And we learned in Isaiah 66, verse 15 and 16, he'll come back with fire. And then in 2 Peter chapter 3, I believe, from verses 8 through 13, you're going to see once again for the second coming is coming by fire. But we have all the answers that, it's all about the words of God, right? Heaven and earth may pass, but my words will never pass, as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24. And we have to understand is if we understand very, very clearly that the Lord comes back with the word and not with fire, right? Which means the expectation changes because remember, the expectation is big judgment. Fire destroys the entire world. The whole world is destroyed and a new heaven and a new earth is created. And if we don't understand this, what happens is your expectation of of Jesus coming back is completely wrong from what it really is. And that's what happened at the time of the first coming, where there's supposed to be fire from Isaiah 66, 15 and 16. But when Jesus came, there was no fire. But the fire that came was the words of God, right? And then, of course, the clouds are a huge one. Like Daniel chapter 7, verse 13, there was an image that Daniel saw, one coming like the Son of Man, right? Coming on the clouds. And we're going to see that that's also in Matthew chapter 24, verse 30 for the second coming. But we realize what are the clouds? Clouds are purified people. Or, if you look at it in a miniaturized version, the cloud is the person, the man of mission, where the Spirit of the Lord comes on him. That's Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1 and 2 that came from this week's message. And we get a much, much better idea how to understand how the Lord comes back again. Because, the reason why the former faith will come against us is because they don't understand the doctrine. They don't understand the words of God properly, right? And when we understand this much better, I think that's going to be something that a lot of us will be, and I'm going to tell you this right now is, I haven't taught this in a long time, but I still memorize the verses. Like the verses are in my head, right? So all the different, I know this one. Oh, yeah, Matthew chapter this. Okay, yeah, I got that one too, right? So, we have to understand it so clearly so that when people hear it, they're like, oh, that's why. Okay, this makes more sense, right? And that's what Jesus was doing too. Jesus was teaching people about how he came. It's not what they expected. They're expecting God to come back and to destroy all their enemies. But what Jesus is saying is to love your enemies. And they're like, well, why don't you destroy them? Like, they're enemies. It's like, no. We have to love them, right? How do we destroy enemies is when we love them so much, when they hear the words of God, they come to our side as they believe in God and they believe in the one that God sent, right? So that would be the first thing I would go over is those 2 big ones. Go over the prophecies of Jesus, first and second coming, right? And understand them very, very clearly. The second one I'd go over is understanding the reoccurring history. When you understand how, when you're understanding the time and the chaos we're in right now, I really, really suggest you guys go into the, internet, find some books about the early Christian church in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century. The first, I would say the first 3 centuries, right? The whole world was against these early Christian leaders. They welcomed death. They didn't care. They said, I still believe. I don't care what you guys say. And when you understand how great these martyrs were, you're going to get a much, much better and clearer idea of what is actually, of how bad it was back then. Right now, today, we have nothing to worry about physically, but right now, man, we're going through some difficulty. What type of difficulty? It is very, very spiritual, right? So we have to be those that really, really understand is, the mental stress we're all going through, all the different rumors, all those things. Don't even think about it. Don't even look at it. We just have to understand it clearly, right? That this is going to be one of those difficult times. And, a lot of us have been practicing for this very moment, right? Some of you guys playing One Night Werewolf. Some of you guys play Avalon. Some people guys play Mafia. For me, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of true. It's like we're playing this huge real life game of One Night Werewolf and Avalon Mafia, whatever it is. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit more scarier because it's real. But I really hope that all of us here can understand and read through the early Christian church, guys, during the times of persecution, during the times of the Colosseum, and you will get an idea of how bad it really was, how bad, what you'd say, like, the panic of all of society right now going on, not even checking what is going on either. And if you look at it back then too, it's exactly the same thing. And this is why recurring history is such an important principle to understand. And I hope it's something that everyone, I've told you guys before, look it up. Find out stories of the early Christian church. Look at Justin Martyr. There's going to be these early Christian leaders or historians, right? Iconius, Justin Martyr. Who are the other? Oh, there's a bunch of big ones. There's, gosh, you know what? I always have it in my head, but for some reason my mind has gone blank. Early Christian historians. Eusebius, right? Who else is there? Eusebius is a big one to look at. And excuse me. Who else is there? There's Eusebius of Caesarea. And man, you know what? I'm gonna have to get back to you on this one here. But there are a lot of early Christian church writers you could take a look at. Oh gosh, how can I forget them? But either way, I hope that is something that you guys can really look into to understand what is going on today. That is, it is a repeating history for sure, right? And when you understand this, it'll change the way that you see how things are happening right now. And like I said yesterday, or 2 days ago, yesterday in the word study, if 2023 is the greatest blessing, remember, blessings don't come for free. The reason why it's the greatest blessing, because it is the greatest tribulation. If you can overcome the greatest tribulation, that deserves the greatest blessing. And that's why, think about how many times in the message it was like, from like October, it's like, guys, it's going to be hard, just stay. Just stay no matter what. No matter what, just stay. Like, that's what the message was, is basically telling us it's going to get that bad kind of thing, right? So I hope it's something that all of us can understand at a much, much deeper and higher level too. Okay? So that is the practical word study for today. I hope it's something that you guys can actually put into action. And I think that's something that will change the way your faith runs when you can actually do things and put the words of God into action, all right? Which leads us into the song of choice for today. And I chose this song because yesterday, as we were singing all these songs, we went 2.5 hours. We sang some of like our favorites, like oldies and stuff like that. And this is a song that I really, really love. It's got this great part of that talks about how much you love Jesus and stuff like that too. It's called Beautiful Savior, and this is from Planet Shakers over there in Melbourne. I actually went to go visit that church too, and they do such an amazing job. So everyone, this is the song of choice for today. It's Planet Shakers over there in Melbourne with Beautiful Savior.
Wonderful
And what an amazing song that is. Planet Shakers with Beautiful Savior. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. All right. So now that we listened to that song of choice for today, let's get into today's Provi in the media. And I do want to talk about a very, very interesting an article written by Massimo Intervigne, and of course he is one of the renowned sociologists in religion, and he focuses on cults and new religious movements and how they are mistreated or they're discriminated upon. And this is very, very interesting because there's something called an anti-cult movement. So the anti-cult movement is the people who spend their time like anti-providence, whatever it is, like they're just against someone, right? And right now he goes over what the anti-cult ideology is. So these movements that they have these groups that are formed just to go against a certain religion or cult or whatever it is. What is their ideology? Right? So let me get into today's article. It's called The Anti-Cult Movement, the Anti-Cult Ideology. Okay? So let's start with this. So in the article, it starts with the 70s. In the 70s, sociologists developed the new concept of moral panic to explain how some social problems become overconstructed and generate exaggerated fears. So moral panics were defined as socially constructed social problems characterized by a reaction, both in media representation and in political forms, which are out of proportion to the actual threat itself, right? And like if you were to talk about some additional features of moral panics that were mentioned, like number one is social problems existing, like sometimes social problems that have existed from decades are reconstructed by media and public narratives as new or as the subject of a recent alleged dramatic increase. So like something happens and they say, and they'll take a story from 10 years ago and said, well, look at this. And they use that as the new narrative and the new subject for the recent dramatic increase. A second characteristic is prevalence is misrepresented through folk statistics. They're not confirmed by scholarly studies, but they're just repeated from media to media to media, and they can even inspire political measures. So a good example of folk statistics in sociology, which are not true, are the exaggerated statistics about cases of sexual abuse among Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And it's there too. It's aimed at creating moral panic around that issue, right? And, according to Philip Jenkins, and he's another sociologist, and he wrote a bunch of papers and stuff too, he says the panic reaction doesn't occur because of any rational assessment of the scale of a particular menace. Rather, it is a result of ill-defined fears that eventually find a dramatic and oversimplified focus in one incident or stereotype, which then provides a visible symbol for discussion and debate, right? And, there are going to be people they call moral entrepreneurs who have vested interests in perpetuating a specific fear, right? So cults have often been studied as quintessential targets of moral panics. So according again to Jenkins, cults perform a convenient integrative function by providing a common enemy, a dangerous outsider against which the mainstream can unite and reassert its shared standards and beliefs, right? So it does depend on the legal and cultural environment of a given society, but the tension between cults and mainstream community might result in active persecution, or it can take the form of ostracism and negative stereotyping because of this moral panic. And we can see a lot of that happening right now at this time, right? So, these anti-cultists act as what you'd call like a moral entrepreneur, and the religious minorities they target as cults are presented rather than as legitimate social agents, right, as a social problem and the subject matter of a moral panic, okay? But one thing we do need to know is moral panics are never without some sort of objective base. Like there's something there first, right? So like nobody actually denies that some religious organizations have been or are guilty of criminal activities, right? There's obvious cases of frauds or pedophile crimes, from members of clergy, mass suicides, like the order of the Solar Templar. And we're told by critics of cults that misguided academics are, sometimes people will say that the academics who say it's not that bad are cult apologists, right? And they're prepared to deny that criminal or other illegal activities are ever perpetuated, right, by new religious movements. But obviously, Massimo was saying that there's no such thing. I've never met one at all. Everyone agrees that there are criminal religious movements. There are. There's even a category in sociology, criminal religious movements. So there's no scholar that denies there are criminal organizations or individuals, right? But the real problem that people are looking at is prevalence, right? Not the existence of it. Yeah, it exists, but how prevalent is it? Is it something that's just rampant everywhere? And it's obvious that members of some religious organizations in some circumstances commit crimes, but there's no evidence that members of all or most groups labeled by their opponents as cults are guilty of illegal activities. There's no evidence, right? That crimes are committed more often by the personnel of cults more than mainline religions. And if you look at the actual studies, it's very contrary that more happens in the mainline religions more than the new religious movements or the cults, right? So moral panics do start with a basis in reality, but they escalate through exaggeration and folk statistics when comments appropriate for one or more particular incidents are generalized, and then it's escalating. It's not about creating, it's about escalating the moral panic that moral entrepreneurs with vested interest, especially in this case, we're talking about anti-cultists, enter the picture. Okay? So let's get into this, right? So let's get into, we're going to get into, let's talk about brainwash. No, okay, we'll get into the next part of this, which I think is a very, very important part. And it talks about anti-Jehovah Witness literature, and they claim that it's called the Watchtower. And then they say that the Jehovah's Witnesses are not really a religious organization. So these are the ways that anti-cultists can come in and make people look bad, right? So, the two religions that are very, very big today in society is the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons. And what they do is anti-cultists will bring a moral panic, and they're not going to say that they're a religion, but they're going to take them out of the category. So that's one of the things they do is they say, well, you know what? They're not even in the category of a religion. And that's why it's okay to go against them, right? So what we need to understand is this. Like, there has been a lot of stuff that goes on with these anti-cult ideologies and movement that causes this panic, this moral panic, that even if you look even now from the media right now, in Korea, there's probably a moral panic because they're going over 4 different new religious movements in their Netflix documentary to make it feel like this is something that's going on. Or even with like the Netflix documentary of what they show about us, they're showing all the stuff from 10, 20, 30 years ago that's already been dealt with and already taken care of, right? So what they do is they try to distinguish genuine religions from groups falsely claiming their rights to the religious label, right? And then they'll say it's because of brainwashing or mental manipulation or mind control, and that's why they're not considered a religion, right? And that's why there are articles that Massimo wrote on brainwashing and its criticism by mainline scholars, to which, if you want, there's a bunch of articles you can read on this too. Now, brainwashing theories are the object of considerable scholarly criticism. Like, it's a lot of people against it, right? The model requires, as a third step, discrimination among sources and narratives, and anti-cultists make little or no use of mainline scholarly sources. Instead, they use the accounts of those normally defined by social scientists as apostates. Now, apostates, people think that means ex-member. Apostasy means to leave your faith, but to be an apostate, these are people, former members converted into active opponents of the group they have left. And although many such ex-members resent being called apostate, the term is a technical term, right? Not derogatory, it's a technical term, right? And has been used by sociologists of religion for decades, right? So Bitterwinter, which is this magazine, or this what do you call it, the website that I'm looking at right now too, published a series on apostates. Also, we went over one of them last week, explaining that not all ex-members, and in fact only a minority of them, turn into public opponents of the groups they left, or they become apostates. Remember, it's not derogatory, it's just it's a real technical term. Objections that apostates are not necessarily representative and reliable are met by the fourth stage of the anti-cult model, right? Cult, it is argued, are not religions. They are not because they use brainwashing, while religions are by definition joined out of free will. Okay? We know that they use brainwashing because we rely on the testimony of victims, i.e., or example is apostates. And we know that apostates are representative of the group's membership, or at least former membership, because they are screened and selected by private, reliable watchdog organizations. So anti-cult, or these watchdog organizations, just like we saw what happened with like Peter Daly and stuff, was shown on TV as an expert in Providence and stuff, where he never learned everything and he never actually joined Providence, right? And they basically call them like these watchdog reliable watchdog organizations, which are actually the anti-cult organization. So anti-cult organizations, we are told, are more reliable than academics because the former, unlike the latter, have a practical experience and work with victims. But in fact, anti-cult organizations are not interested in objectivity. Their job is to apply the anti-cult ideology to all the groups they have designated as cults. So what's the big difference here is people are trying to say that these anti-cult organizations are more reliable than scholars and sociologists who are just trying to be objective. But if you think about it, if you are an anti-Providence group, are you going to be objective with the information that you have? Well, it's obvious when you look at Netflix. They're putting up a bunch of stuff that's already been dismissed and charges were dropped and such too, right? So anti-cult organizations are not interested in objectivity. Their job is basically to apply the anti-cult ideology to all the groups they've designated as cults, right? So we have to understand that what anti-cult ideology does, they try to perpetuate moral panic and depicting false images of many new religious movements, ultimately, since we are asked to believe that only those witnesses promoted by the anti-cult movements are reliable, right? And these are the ones that are considered the apostates. And we can conclude that the ideology of anti-cultism wants to persuade us that a cult is a cult because it's designated as such by the anti-cultists, right? So when you see this, we kind of get the idea of the ideology of an anti-cult, right? And you get to sit there and say, oh, like, so that's what they're talking about, right? And like, if you even take a look at the there's a bunch of articles that talk about anti-cultism beyond the West, which is especially in Japan and South Korea, right? And in Japan and South Korea, the most interesting thing is deprogramming continues for decades, right? Deprogramming. So, in the West, anti-cultists had to confront criticism, right? So they're like saying, hey, what are you guys doing? These anti-cultists get criticized by mainline scholars, and sometimes there's an open dialogue with them. But their counterparts in South Korea and Japan, they stick to a crude brainwashing theory. Remember, this is coming from this is not me writing. This is from the sociologist writing, Massimo Introvigne. Korea and Japan stuck to a crude brainwashing theory and to deprogramming, which in these countries are mostly practiced by conservative Protestant ministers. So they combined a counter-cult theological criticism of heresies with anti-cult theories of brainwashing. In Japan, deprogramming was not stopped by courts of law until the seminal decision of the Tokyo High Court in the case of Unification Church member Goto Toru in 2014, who was detained against his will for more than 12 years. The advocacy in favor of Goto by the Brussels-based NGO Human Rights Without Frontiers had an impact on the decision, which was confirmed by the Supreme Court in 2015. In South Korea, deprogramming continues to this day, despite massive street demonstrations in 2018 after a female member of the new religious movement, Shincheonji, Gu Ji-in, was strangled to death by her father while she was trying to escape deprogrammers, right? South Korean Christian deprogrammers even produce propaganda videos proposing a unique mix of secular brainwashing theories and sectarian criticism of unbiblical heresies, targeting both newly formed groups and older organizations they regard as unorthodox, including the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So when you see this, it's these are kind of things, these anti-cult activities were first promoted by the Russian Orthodox Church. and is based on theological criticism against unwelcome competitors in a religious market that was just opening after decades of state-enforced atheism, right? So when you see this, you're kind of understanding where the Korean stance is on this right now too, right? How brainwashing in other parts they're not widely accepted, but it's something that Japan and Korea are very into. And how do you know? Because they still have deprogramming. And there's people that I know that were held for 3 months against their will, just being bombarded with deprogramming from like Protestant ministers, right? So that is something that we have to understand. It's very, very extreme, right? Considered very, very extremist. So, when you understand, even like in Europe, the main financial support of European anti-cultism had traditionally come from the French government. That's very interesting, right? In 2020, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, a bipartisan commission of the U.S. federal government, identified both Dvorkin from the Russians and Fikris among the main threats to the global cause of religious liberty, denouncing them for the promotion of pseudo-scientific concepts about cults, which includes deprogramming and brainwashing, right? So it's very, very interesting to see how people are labeled and how the anti-cults work, right? So, and that it's very interesting how it's very, very prevalent, especially in Japan and Korea, where deprogram is such a big thing over there too, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to the anti-cult movement, right? And I hope it's something that I'll leave the article below so you guys can read that for sure. And, it's something that we have to understand. There is an agenda that they're going for. And what I'm going to say is, I'm not going to talk about the people who are not in the anti-cult movement, but this is what's happening in Korea, right, with the anti-cult movement. And it's something that we do have to understand. We have to research more, understand, even from a scholarly position, this is something that's being well studied and documented when it comes to anti-cultists. In America, of course, they're criticized, but it's still very, very at would say primitive stage over there in Japan and Korea, where they're still deprogrammed, where they'll kidnap their own children. And then, like we said in South Korea, there's the father that strangled their own child that tried to get away from deprogrammers. And it's that moral panic over in Korea is much, much bigger, right? And that's why you'll hear a lot of different things going on in Korea right now. And you're like, wait, what is happening here? What is actually happening at this time, right? And I hope it's something that we can understand, that we don't want to cause moral panic, right? Some of your countries are going to already have it, like say in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Japan, maybe in other countries. There's going to be a lot of that. But like I see already here in Malaysia, the Netflix documentary peaked at number 6, I believe, and then now a few days later, it's back to number 9, and it's probably going to drop off the top 10 pretty soon in the next couple of days, from what I see, right? But we have to be those that understand, the social context, the sociological research that's being done when it comes to anti-cultist movements too, and what is their strategy to get moral panic so people are all going to believe a certain way. And one thing you do know about Korea is very, very sympathetic to the public opinion. Very sympathetic to it. So getting the public opinion is very important when it comes to, Korea and how they make their decisions too. But either way, I hope it's something that helps you guys out a lot too. And, it really helps you guys out when it comes to, once again, talking about apostates, where, anti-cultists believe that the apostates are more reliable, but technically speaking, they're sworn to go against the place that they left, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone's an apostate, right? Because, apostate means they're sworn to, to get rid of or to go against a certain group of people. But I hope it's something that it never gets to that, like in the foreign countries and stuff like that too. I know right now is a very emotional time, but I think the most important thing is that we really get our hearts and our minds really thinking about, understanding the real situation right now. All right. So there it is, guys. That is today's Provi in the Media. Hope it's something that you get some good insight on the anti-cultist movement, what their ideology is and how they try to create moral panic. And I hope that we can see it properly too and say, this is what is going on. This makes a little bit more sense here. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Provi in the Media. I hope you guys really enjoyed that time. And I did leave the link in the description below. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.